I'm sure you've probably never asked yourself, is it necessary to put all the people in history who have claimed to be Jesus in a March Madness single elimination bracket to determine who, besides Jesus, is the ultimate Jesus? But if that thought had occurred to you, I'm sure you would have immediately thought, no, it's not necessary. But we're going to do it anyway. It may shock you that there are enough Jesuses to fill a bracket of 64, but there are, and that's what we're doing. Although not based on love, or caring for the poor and sick. No, this will be judged on infamy, power, influence, debauchery, and most insane. And just to be clear, before I get started, I am going to have fun with this, but I don't want you to think I'm making fun of mental illness or making light of the tragedies that some of these people helped cause. I do hope to shed some light on the sheer magnitude of the phenomenon and help put it into perspective. I have a feeling you will find, like I did, it is way more common than you ever thought. If you're enjoying this content, consider subscribing, leave a comment and a like, which I will be sure to love, and let me know how I'm doing, or how you're doing, or your thoughts on something else. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of the video. 64 Jesuses, that's basically what's happening. So, yeah, how did I get to 64? It actually wasn't that hard. I just kind of looked them up. I found a few stories. I'll put the links down below. My biggest source was Wikipedia. They've got a couple pages that have all of them on there, and I will show you all that in the description. And we're about to look at the profiles anyway. So let's get to it. So I'm going to zoom in over here in the top left corner, and we're just going to go through this by division. So I named them, this is the Magus Shin, and it is just the last name from the first contender with the last name from the last contender. And I know the numbers over here are messed up from what would normally be in a March Madness bracket, but just ignore that. The teams, as it were, the Jesuses are just put in order of their appearance, life, or their revelation. There might be some mistakes, but it's going to be pretty close. So anyway, our first two matchups, we have Simon Magus versus Dositheus, and we have Mani versus Ali. So let's switch over to the profiles and take a quick look at that. Simon Magus, early 1st century, was a Samaritan, darkly hinted that he himself was Christ, calling himself the Standing One. Then we have Dositheus, also a Samaritan, also 1st century. After the time of Jesus, he wished to persuade the Samaritans that he himself was the Messiah. Mani. Mani is, I believe, 2nd, 3rd century. It doesn't have it in here. He is Iranian, prophet and founder of Manichaeism, which is now an extinct religion, essentially reincarnation of different religious figures, including Zoroaster, the Buddha, as well as Jesus. Versus Ali. Now, Ali was the cousin and son-in-law of Muhammad. From the mid-6th century, he was assassinated while praying in a mosque. He was the leader of the Shiite movement, currently 10 to 15% of all Muslims. So I can already tell you, going back to our brackets, it looks like Ali is the winner over Mani. And on this one, I don't know. So let's take another look at that profile. These guys are just really similar, so I think I'm just gonna have to go with the Standing One. He's first. So we have Ali versus Simon now, and I think the clear winner here is Ali. Just the following alone and the longevity, I mean, he's still prevalent. 10 to 15% of all Muslims. I don't know what that works out to. Yeah, that's some influence, even though he's dead. David Alroy led an uprising against Muslim Sultan, adopted the name David Alroy when he began claiming to be the Messiah. He was able to convince many Jewish people to join him, directed his supporters to assemble in the city, hiding swords and other weapons in their robes. Versus William Hackett, died in 1591, English Puritan and religious fanatic, claimed to be the Messiah, and called for the removal of Queen Elizabeth I. He was executed in London after being found guilty of treason. The next matchup, we have Danila Filipovich, believed that he was God. Secret Cultish cells existed throughout pre-revolutionary Russia. Each cell was normally led by a male and female leader who are called the Christ and the Mother of God, respectively. 40,000 followers in total. Versus Anne Lee, the founder and leader of the Shakers, referred to her as Mother, believing that she was the female reincarnation of Christ. Let's see, is that 2 matchups already? It is. We have a revolutionary with a sizable following versus a fanatic who is executed for treason. And then we have another leader of a revolutionary uprising versus a religious fanatic who led a crazy sect of Christians, which is now extinct, or nearly extinct. So let's see. I think we're gonna have to go with. You know what? Let's go with the guy who called out the Queen. Just for fun, just to shake it up. And then this one, I think the clear winner is gonna be Danila Filipovich with his 40,000 people strong uprising in Russia. Fair to say? Sure, let's go with it. And when we have Danila Filipovich over William Hackett, I think we've got to go again with the sizable uprising. And then let's just take this all the way out. So we have Ali versus Danila. And I think we're just going to have to go with Ali as the leader of the Shiites. So Ali is the first to reach the Elite Eight. Let's move on now to the bottom half of this division. And our first matchup is Kondraty Selivanov. Yeah, you know what? So some of these names I'm just not going to try to say, and I'm just going to say Kondraty and John Nichols Tom. So how about Kondraty and John? How about that? Oh, yeah. So, Kondraty is this Coptic sect guy from Russia. Now, these are people who voluntarily castrated themselves. Yeah, it's a whole thing. They got pictures on the Wikipedia that I absolutely do not recommend looking at. And we're just going to move on from there. So I think we've got a strong contender because this whole thing is messed up. So Kondraty versus John Nichols Thom, a Cornish tax rebel who claimed to be the savior of the world and reincarnation of Jesus Christ, killed by British soldiers at the Battle of Bosendenwood. Not super impressed by that, John. If you're a member of the Baha'i faith, please look away. We have a picture of Baha'u'llah on screen. Full disclosure, or spoilers, or not spoiler, too late to be a spoiler. So let's get into this matchup here. We have Arnold Potter, a schismatic Latter-day Saints. Okay, so we have a former Mormon or a Mormon sect leader claimed to be the spirit of Jesus Christ, which entered into his body, and he became Potter Christ, son of the living God. He died in an attempt to ascend to heaven by jumping off a cliff. His body was later retrieved and buried by his followers. That is classic. Versus Baha'u'llah. Okay, so first I should say I don't mean to make fun of the I have to assume mentally ill in this case. He clearly believed it at the time, which he was obviously under a severe and tragic misapprehension. But that is a good story. Versus Baha'u'llah, who is, or was, the prophesied fulfillment and promised one of major religions, including Hinduism, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. Our second matchup is William Davies, former sect leader, or former Mormon. I don't know what to call him. Let's just call him leader of a Latter-day Saint schismatic group called the Kingdom of Heaven. How about that? Located in Walla Walla, Washington, taught his followers that he was the Archangel Michael. His son was the reincarnated Jesus Christ. His second son was actually God the Father. Okay, so that's kind of eccentric. Versus Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, claimed to be the awaited Mahdi, and in the likeness of Christ, promised Messiah at the end time, the metaphorical Jesus. I mean, he's making a lot of claims. Wow, so he's kind of similar to Baha'u'llah. But I think on this first one, I'm going to have to go with Arnold Potter, because that's just I mean, and in this one, I don't know. So I think we'll have to go with Mirza Ghulam Ahmed. But I think I'm going to have to let these guys shine. So we're going to give it to Potter. Oh, I went too far. And this one has got to go to Kondrati. And then I think in this matchup, we're going to give that one to Kondrati also, because this Skopsti sect is going to be hard to beat. So I did go too far. Let's go back. Jonesbury and Attribution. Is that how we say that? Okay, so the last matchup in the bottom half of the first division, Jonesbury, the late 19th century American essayist, poet, literary scholar, suffered a nervous breakdown in 1837, after which he claimed to have become the second coming of Christ. So we just kind of have a guy that lost it. He's just kind of a sad loner, probably spent the rest of his life in a mental institution. I'm surprised there's not more of that on here. Honestly, I'm sure there will be later. Actually, I know there is. Versus Attribution, born Oscar Ernst Bernhardt, changed his name to Attribution. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. From Germany, best known as the author of the Grail message, claimed to be the Messiah. Settled in Austria on a mountain plateau, continued writing the Grail message. He was forbidden any further writing by the Nazis and died in Gestapo custody. So I think between the two, we're going to give this one to Attribution. Congratulations, you move on. So we have Attribution versus William Davies. I already forgot what Davies' deal was. Oh yeah, his first son was Jesus. His second son was actually God. Taught that he was the Archangel Michael. Okay, so that makes no sense. The Archangel Michael gave birth to Jesus and God. I'm going to have to give this for straight up craziness to William Davies. I don't really know a whole lot about the Grail movement. If you know anything about it, put a little bit of information down in the comments, maybe some links. But for now, I'm going to move on. Condrati versus Davies. I have to go with the Scopti sect, voluntary castration. Just in terms of infamy, and it was a whole movement. They're doing this thing willingly. Yeah, I'm sure you get it. As far as like the cult-like thing, I'm going to have to go with Condrati again over Ali. So we have the Scopti sect over the Shiites. And that's going to conclude the Jesus bracket for today. And that concludes the First Division Magus Shin. And the winner here is Condrati. He moves on to what is the final four. Let me move out before we leave. So here is where we are. Stay tuned for the next division, and keep in mind this is only the Jesus category. There are Buddhas and Jewish messiahs and Islamic prophets and divine rulers, and some in a category all their own. I'll be reviewing the spreadsheet I'm working out of in more detail in later videos as well, so be sure to subscribe for more. Bye now!